So, thanks for agreeing to meet with me and do this interview. I know you have a cold, so I'll try not to aggravate that very much. Obviously, your show sold out, so you're very popular in this area. But for those people that may not have ever seen you before, how would you describe your music for them?
Well, this show is different from my rock and roll show. The acoustic show is built very organically here in Oklahoma City. It's, you know, I guess it's a bit folky, but kind of do it my own way.
Okay. And it's a Christmas tour, so is it more Christmassy music, or is
we have one Christmas song. I
Okay.
forget to play it about half the time. You know, we just basically we wanted to do, when we started doing this, we wanted to do something that's felt right for this time of the year, because Christmas is this season. It's a very emotional time for people.
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot of happiness. There's a lot of sadness. I think people's hearts are really open. It's the end of the year. People are thinking about what the year was like. They're hanging out with their family, and that's always complex.
Yeah.
And we wanted a show that would reflect that kind of energy.
That's great. That's wonderful. Okay, so as a child growing up, music surrounds us. You know, I listened to whatever came on the alarm when my parents' alarm went off, or CCR, big time, back when I was growing up. What did you listen to, and how did it maybe influence you?
Well, growing up in Austin, I listened to a lot of local music, because there was a lot of great local music, and my parents were big music fans. Music was a huge part of my social life growing up. So lots of blues and soul music, country music, psychedelic music. You know, I'd say the stuff that, you know, yeah, I mean, you know, like any kid I listened to some top 40 when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But not a ton of rock and roll.
Really?
Yeah.
Very cool. And I read that you play the violin.
I did.
That influenced you very much? I mean, are you doing classical music at all?
Yeah, I started out playing classical. Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely, I really, really like Baroque music, and I think that, hey man, I think that's still a really big part of my, my sound, you know, and I think, you know, I don't really think about it a lot until someone asks me, but I realize compared to a lot of people, my music's probably kind of unusual, but it feels pretty normal to me because I've lived in it my whole life.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. So, what made you first realize that music was what you were going to do?
Well, I didn't realize it was what I was going to do, but I realized I got a lot of positive feedback from when I was a kid. I played the violin, and I was pretty successful at that, so I got a lot of attention for that. And then when I started playing guitar, that all happened pretty quick, and I was actually going to UT, University of Texas, thinking that I was going to be a lawyer for a moment, and then I started playing and touring, and music kind of just presented itself as my life.
Yeah.
And so I walked down the path that it presented. So I don't know that I ever really had a conscious moment. I guess maybe right now.
Yeah, I think I'll do that for so what can people expect to see when they see you live?
Really depends on the show. You know, I mean, this is basically an opportunity for me to kind of address my aesthetic. I really believe in the aesthetic that people had like in the late 60s when we were going through the kind of cultural boom of creativity in our country. You know, whether you like the late 60s music or not, you can't deny that people were really ambitious. I'm culturally really ambitious, so consequently my music moves around a lot. And in comparison to most people now, I look like I'm kind of crazy, but I just feel like that's because we are now entering a very, very square time where there's so much information. People are less, not right to say less sophisticated, but I don't know what it is. There's like, it's hard to be creative and be successful.
Yeah.
And it used to be that you had to be really creative to be successful. Now, it's almost like when you're really creative, you really have to kind of dumb it down. So with my music, I just say screw that, and I'm just on my own thing. I let it morphed. So this show, acoustic, folky, very song-oriented, slower, a bit even winsome and sad at times. My rock and roll show, I've gone through a period where there was tons of harmony and kind of almost a guitar pop rock thing, and now I'm going into this more of a funk, psychedelic funk phase. I mean, I'm just throwing terms out.
Yeah.
Just morph all the time. So, what do you see? It depends on what show you go to.
Okay. Well, that's really pretty cool, actually, to be able to, you know, do something that's so diverse, you know, and on both sides like that. Can you tell me kind of some details about what your group is tonight?
Well, mostly my group tonight is a duo. It's Cullen and I, Cullen Fox.
Okay.
He's played with me on and off for quite a number of years. When I met him, he was just a kid. Just kind of grown up playing with me. And we've evolved into like a comfortable glove. I mean, we have a thing now that for many, many years was just constant experimentation. He would show up with new instruments, we'd work them into the set, and now it's kind of to some degree leveled off. So it's, you know, I mostly play acoustic guitar, kick, and sing. Kick drum, I have a big kick drum. He plays, well, it's kind of a xylophone because it doesn't have the rotator, because otherwise, and trumpet, accordion, keyboards.
Very cool.
So we do that. And then Greg, who's in the Lossy Coils, my rock band, is traveling with us, so we get him up for a song or two.
Okay, very good. But do you still have anybody from the EMR band that plays with you now?
Not from that band. I mean, Bucka plays with me occasionally. But that band basically suffered at the, you know, fate of the record company.
Yeah.
It just really, there's a lot of pressure on everybody, and we had a nice arc, and then we had a really rough patch that just kind of broke the band up.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad because you guys were pretty awesome. So what's your favorite type of music, if you had to pick?
My favorite type of music? Well,
Is it different than what you play?
to some degree, yeah. I mean, I would say a lot. I tend to like a couple of different musics a lot. I like old gospel music before it got real fancy. I just, I love the way, the style, and I love how it's a little spooky. And I like, I always have liked what I would call psychedelic pop, rock, or whatever. That might not mean the same thing to other people, but to me it's creative, unusual. Like a band of right now that I like a lot is Tame Impala. You know, I would call them psychedelic rock. Sounds a little bit like a trippier Beatles, you know, but I've always, you know, like the Flaming Lips. I've always liked bands like that.
Okay.
Kind of stuff.
Very good. So if we looked at your iPod or your MP3 player, you would have all that on there.
Yeah.
So you do songwriting workshops.
Yep.
Are you going to continue to do that every year?
Yeah. I mean, I've got to balance it out with all the other stuff, but I'm definitely planning on it. It was very successful.
And because you write a lot of your own music, I mean, if not all of it, and so can you tell me kind of about your process? Is it something that you have a muse for? Is it something that you've had to relate to out of your own life?
Well, I tend to write, first of all, I like to write something that actually means something. And, you know, not to continually skew negative towards the modern music, but, you know, my attitude is that music is so important to the soul. Yet most of the stuff you actually hear that is repetitive has no content. It's just empty.
Yeah.
They're just like stringing words together. So I tend to really care about my narrative, of course. And I do write. I tend to write close to the chest. I write emotional things. Maybe sometimes too emotional. I've always wanted to be a more visceral, kind of cerebral writer, but my heart is just where it is.
Yeah.
So I write that way, and I try to let that dictate the mood of the song.
Okay. And that's probably why people can connect with it, because it's, you know, everybody has had broken hearts and lost loved ones, and, you know, so...
Well, but also the other thing, too, in defense of darker songwriting is when you acknowledge the darkness, you're seeing the light.
True.
And I think that some people miss that, you know, it's not that, like, there's two ways to look at songwriting. It's like you're saying something because when you recognize, you know, as Buddhists say, life is suffering, so to recognize suffering is to see the light.
Yeah.
Which is to say that you can see beauty when you see that there is pain.
I love that. That's very appropriate to my life right now. So do you have like fan clubs or street team or anything like that, that people that kind of help you out before you get to a place?
I have an amazing collection of people that help me. I have the Ian Moore Street Team, which I just saw the guys last night in Fort Worth. Danny Work runs that, and I have a band page, a Facebook page. I was about to say MySpace page.
Well,
That's Ian Moore
funny.
Official, and I have a personal page as well. The mailing list to my website. You know, the nature of getting through to people to communicate your whereabouts and what you're doing is challenging now.
Yeah, it is.
Facebook's gone to a pay-to-play mode, so even though I have a lot of people that follow me, they don't get my post unless I pay Facebook. So that's changing right now. So, you know, you kind of have to stay on top of that to get the word out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I spend a lot of energy right now doing that.
I understand. I could sit and do that too for my work and for all the stuff that I've been involved in. And you could sit at the computer all day.
Yep.
And to try to take care of it, it just eats it up. Okay, so what? Okay, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. But what is the wildest story that you can tell me about your touring days?
The wildest story.
Yeah.
Oh God! I mean, I will say, as I've now lived for a while and had a few story times with other musicians, that I've had a wilder career than most. And not that I'm that. The funny thing is, really not that wild of a person. I'm pretty mellow, really. I would say the wildest one was when we had to escape a Mexican drug lord in Juarez.
Holy cow.
Who was a huge fan of Muddy Jesus, my
Yeah.
hit song from my second record. It's quite a long story, but basically we went to a bar after a show in El Paso in Juarez, and a bunch of guys showed up with our money suits and cell phones, and the guy wanted to invite us to a party, and he was famous for having multi-day parties where you would get locked in the room and he would unlock the door when he was ready.
Oh my gosh.
And so we had to run for the border.
Oh dear. So
Yeah.
this is after the song was written, or?
And yeah, the song was a
That's
hit.
too fun. Yeah, I love that song.
I mean, it was a
Yeah.
hit, and consequently,
And then, so it kind of, wow, that's pretty funny. Okay, so if you could perform with anybody, whether they're dead, alive, or they're broken up, who would it be?
well, it would be, you know what I would, well, there's so many of those. I do those, I could have like 50 of them.
Give me as many as you want.
Well, there's a number. I would be down in Jamaica for the advent of reggae. That would be one. I would be in Stax and Motown, both of them, at, you know, Motown, like when Stevie Wonder first started to record, or Marvin Gaye. Anything of the Stax stuff. I love the Stax band. It would be really cool to be with the Beatles in their mid-period time, with George Martin in the studio. So most of the stuff would be studio experiences. Performing live, I mean, it would be what I do. I wouldn't really change it because I really like, you know, it's really a joy to share stages with people, you know, and you respect, and I've done that a lot with people, you know, that I love, and I definitely treasure those things.
Very nice. Okay. So, can you tell me what's happening next for you? You're gonna finish this tour? Are you working on anything?
Yeah, and where I have a ton of stuff right now that's not released. So basically, what it looks like right now, my next record is going to be this funkier record that's a little remixy, actually, believe it or not. Kind of a soul funk thing. And when I do that, it tends to be a little bit what other people might call retro, largely because I think soul and funk were better in the 60s and 70s than they are now. But the way it's being produced and mixed, it definitely sounds a bit more modern. And I'll be touring it to the West Coast in January to start to support that record. South by Southwest is coming up in March. I have a new manager and a new booking agent, so I look to 2016 to be a pretty busy year.
Oh, great. So you'll be back through here again. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're looking, we are possibly going to play in March. The problem is that, you know, there's not really a good venue for us right now. I mean, we played the Warmy Dog last time, and they were super cool. I mean, they loved us, but we're definitely an anomaly in that it's mostly red dirt music. You know, a lot of those bands like us, thankfully. But so yeah.
Yeah. I know they're building a place that's going to be bigger. The Warmy Dog is. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I did. Yeah, they told me.
So yeah. Let's see here. Anything else that you'd like to convey to the people that are going to be reading this? Or
Well, I mean, it's nothing that I can say in a little nugget. I just the thing I always say is, slow down. Feel, listen. Read. Get off the computer. That would be the thing I would say. Like, I think that art and of any type elevates the soul, and not that it can't be found in computers, but I think we're shortchanging ourselves a little bit right now.
True. So the kids that are coming up that are aspiring to become, try to break into the music industry, what advice would you give them then?
Slow down.
Slow down.
Well, there's two routes to go. One is like I have a son who's very into the electronic music, and I think that's cool. I support that. And so he's really into computers, his world. But I really feel like if I were a kid coming up right now and I had some vision, which you never do as a kid because you're a kid,
Right.
I would really try to avoid that route, and I would go deep and be slow and meditative, because I really feel like it gives you a perspective that other kids aren't going to have, because everybody's wasting their time playing video games and
True.
just constant social media. And I think in the end, if you want to be an artist, you got to be heavier than the other people. So that would be the route. If I could revisit my young self.
Very well said. Thank you. Well, I appreciate your time.
Cool.
And for seeing me at such short notice.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna write this up and send it to Jody, and hopefully you'll be happy with what I wrote.
Cool.
And, anytime you're coming through here, if you need someone to help you promote it, I'm.
Oh, we always need. It's always helpful, especially like this show is a show we've done it so many times now that obviously it's kind of its own entity.
Yeah.
But every time we come into Oklahoma City, it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool.
Thank you
Carrie,
so
well, thank you. I'm
much.
going to go sound check.